There is one drill that if you do for 10 minutes a day for 30 days can noticeably change your movement on the court. Most club coaches barely mention it. It shows up constantly in training at the higher levels of this sport. Yet, almost nobody at the recreational level does it consistently. And that gap is exactly why some players seem to glide to every shot while others are always one step late. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what the drill is, how to run it as a complete 10-minute daily routine built around 4 stages, followed by 2 minutes of targeted work, the mistakes that quietly ruin it, and why those 10 focus minutes alone can be more valuable for your movement than an entire group session. This might be the closest thing badminton has to a cheat code. But before I tell you what it is, you need to understand why it works. Badminton is not actually won by whoever hits the shuttle hardest. It is won by whoever gets to the shuttle first, with balance and with time to set up the shot they actually want. That ability comes from efficient footwork, positioning, and anticipation, and it is built through repetition of movement patterns until your body starts reacting before your brain has to think it through. The problem is that in a normal training session, a surprising amount of time gets eaten up by waiting, rallying, rotating players in and out, and resetting between points. That limits how many focused, high-quality footwork repetitions you actually get in a given hour, even in a well-run session. That is exactly the gap this drill closes. In 10 focus minutes, you can get far more dedicated footwork repetitions than you typically get during an entire group practice, simply because there is no waiting, no rotating, and no rallying to slow you down. The drill is called shadow footwork, sometimes called solo shadow badminton. The idea is simple. You stand at the center of an imaginary court, and you move to each of the 6 key points: the forehand net, the backhand net, the forehand midcourt, the backhand midcourt, the forehand rear corner, and the backhand rear corner, exactly as if you were retrieving a real shot, then recover to the center every single time. No shuttle required. No racket required either, though holding one helps you rehearse the shot at the end of each movement. Here is why it works so well. It builds your split step because you have to reset your stance before every single movement. It builds your first step explosiveness because you are constantly launching from a ready position after a split step. It builds your recovery because every rep ends with you returning to center under control, not collapsing. It builds your reading because over time you stop just moving through a memorized pattern and start reacting the way you would to a real shot. It builds your lunge depth for net shots and your balance for rear court defense. It builds your conditioning because you never fully stop moving. One drill, almost every fundamental movement pattern your game depends on. No partner needed. That is a big part of why shadow footwork shows up so often in the training routines of players who move well, whether that is at the junior development level or further up the competitive ladder. Now, let us build this into an actual 10-minute daily routine, divided into 4 stages, with the final 2 minutes focused on your weakest movement. Do not skip ahead to the harder stages just because you feel advanced. Each one trains the control the next stage depends on. Stage 1, roughly 2 minutes, is basic 6-point shadow footwork at a controlled pace. Stand at the center of the court in your ready stance, knees soft, weight on the balls of your feet. Move to one of the 6 points with correct footwork. Touch the position with your racket or your hand, and recover fully to center before starting the next move. For these 2 minutes, focus purely on clean form rather than counting reps. Your steps should be light, your last step into the corner should be controlled rather than a stumble, and your eyes should stay up the entire time, not down at your feet. Most beginners rush this stage and try to go fast immediately. Do not. If your balance is not solid at a slow pace, going faster will only make bad habits happen faster too. Stage 2, another 2 minutes, adds a fixed sequence instead of moving to random points. Move through all 6 positions in a set order: net forehand, net backhand, mid forehand, mid backhand, rear backhand, recovering to center after each one, then repeat the loop for the full 2 minutes. This stage builds a transition between shot types that random footwork alone does not train as directly, since in a real rally, you rarely hit the same type of shot twice in a row. Many club-level players have a noticeably weaker transition between net play and rear court play simply because they never drill that switch in isolation. This stage isolates exactly that weakness so you can work on it directly. Stage 3, another 2 minutes, is random call shadow footwork, and this is the version many competitive players lean on the most. Have a partner, a coach, or a simple app call out random points in no particular order, and you react and move to each one as fast as you can while still recovering fully to center. If you are training alone, Use a random number or random direction app to call the next corner so you do not know where you are moving until the cue appears. This makes the movement genuinely reactive instead of simply following a pattern you already know. The goal is not just to survive the 2 minutes, it is to maintain clean, reactive movement without letting your technique fall apart. Stage 4, another 2 minutes, is constraint variation. Once stage 3 starts to feel natural, add a small limitation that forces deeper adaptation. Try adding a light resistance band around your waist with a safe, stable anchor point behind you, and repeat your 6-point movement against that resistance. If the resistance changes your footwork mechanics, remove it. You can also remove your hands from the movement entirely for part of the 2 minutes, so your legs alone are responsible for your balance and recovery instead of relying on your arms to help. Each constraint exposes a specific weakness in your movement and forces your body to correct it, rather than leaning on habits that only hold up when conditions are easy. That leaves your final 2 minutes for your weakest movement specifically. Whichever of the 6 points you find yourself struggling with most, whether that is deep rear court recovery or tight net lunges, spend the last stretch working on that one movement exclusively. That is what turns this from 4 separate stages into one complete 10-minute program built around you. Now, the principles that make this routine actually work, because running through the stages without these will waste a lot of your 10 minutes. First, quality over quantity, always. A fast, sloppy lunge teaches your body a habit that will show up under real match pressure exactly when you cannot afford it. If your form starts breaking down, slow down immediately. 15 clean reps will do more for you than 40 sloppy ones. Second, your split step never disappears. This is the single most skipped detail in shadow footwork. Every movement should begin from a fresh split step, not a standing start. Skipping it is one of the more common reasons players plateau on this drill, because they end up training a stance they will never actually be in during a real point. Third, recover fully every time. Most players move to the corner correctly and then just stand there, or drift back lazily. In a real match, that half second of drifting is often the exact window your opponent uses to finish the point. Treat every recovery step with the same urgency as the movement out to the shot. Fourth, frequent short sessions tend to beat occasional long ones. This is not just a motivational line. Frequent, high-quality practice simply gives you more opportunities to reinforce the movement pattern than one long session crammed in once a week. 10 focus minutes daily, done consistently, is generally a more reliable path to that movement becoming automatic than a single 30-minute session you only manage once in a while. Here's where I'm going to disagree with a lot of club culture. Most recreational programs spend nearly all their court time on activities that need a full group. Hitting lines, rotation drills, doubles patterns, all useful, but none of them isolate your individual movement, because movement gets buried inside everything else happening on the court. Footwork improvement is really more of an individual project that happens to live inside a team sport. The players who move well are often the ones who treat their own footwork as homework, something that happens even when a coach has not scheduled it. They tend to show up to group sessions already moving well, and that usually came from somewhere else, often alone, in a living room, or a quiet corner of the gym. If your club treats solo footwork practice as something only the obsessive players bother with, that mindset is probably holding a lot of people back. Players who move noticeably well at higher levels of this sport often spend real time alone building these patterns with nobody watching. Disagree? Tell me in the comments. And while you are there, be honest with yourself for a second. How many real, focused footwork repetitions do you think you actually got in your last training session? Be specific. I would guess the number is lower than you expect, and that is worth sitting with, because a 10-minute solo routine like this one can realistically get you more dedicated footwork work than a full group session does with zero equipment and zero excuses. Quick recap before you go. Shadow footwork, also called solo shadow badminton, is a drill worth building into your daily routine, and here is the full 10 minutes. Stage 1, roughly 2 minutes, basic 6-point movement at a controlled pace, focus purely on clean form. Stage 2, 2 minutes, a fixed sequence looping through all 6 points to train your transitions. Stage 3, 2 minutes, random call reactive footwork to train genuine reaction and decision making. Stage 4, 2 minutes, constraint variation using a light resistance band or removing your hands to expose hidden weaknesses. Final 2 minutes, targeted work on your single weakest movement. Quality over quantity, always. Never skip the split step. Recover fully on every rep. Frequent short sessions over occasional long ones. 30 days of consistent shadow footwork can noticeably change how efficiently you move on court, especially if you track your sessions and keep your technique clean the whole way through. You do not need a court, a partner, or special equipment to start. You need about 10 minutes and a clear patch of floor. Pick your corner. Start tomorrow. See you in the next one.